And yo, what's up, guys? We're back. This week we're going to be in Missouri, man. UFC Kansas City. You know when they got to sell tickets for a fight card, it's always much better, and it's no different this time. We got a really good main event with Garry taking on Carlos Prates. We're going to see if the Fighting Nerds train is going to keep on rolling, or if Garry can rebound from the first loss he ever had to Shavkat Rakhmonov last time out and prove why he was mad that he wasn't in the running for that title shot. And we'll see, man. The winner of this one is going to be right there, knocking on the door for the 170-pound belt. And there's a lot of really good fights throughout the card, so I'm excited to break it down. And like last week, man, we did good with the interaction last week. So same thing, man. Even if it's just a let's go or thank you, put a comment down below. Let's try to boost the algorithm up, get more eyeballs on this video. And if you got a question, put it down below. If you got a confident pick, put it down below. I'd be curious to hear what you got to say. If you agree, if you disagree with some of my picks. And then just, if you can, man, just put a, thank you, let's go, whatever you want to put down in there real quick. That doesn't take a lot of time to boost this video up. And then hit the like button, man. Let's try to get as many likes as possible. We've been doing really well this week, this month, of April, giving out really good advice. We've done well with the predictions overall, and then we've done really well on the betting side on Patreon. So if you want to go over there, we've won over 11 units this week, or this month. Man, I keep saying that, my bad. And just been doing really well. So definitely go to patreon.com/PredictionGuru, sign up. We're going to have some bets again this week. We already got a few bets placed for UFC Kansas City. And yeah, man, let's get into the first fight of the night. And kicking off the card, we got Chelsea Chandler and Jocelyn Edwards. And, man, I mean, what can you really say about this one? It's two mid-level 135ers known for missing weight. Chandler, to me, if they had 145 in the UFC, that's where she'd be, because she has had 5 fights at 135, but she's only made weight for 2 out of 5. And she's had 4 fights at 140, 145. She's 3-1 in those fights. She's 3-2 at 135. So yeah, she doesn't have a lot of experience, but she's all right as a fighter. And with Jocelyn Edwards, 10th UFC fight, 5-4 so far, or it's gonna be her 10th UFC fight this weekend, and she got her first finish in the UFC. Her last fight, she's won 4 of her last 6 fights overall, and one of the losses to Nora Cornell was a little controversial, so you could argue that Edwards could be 5-1 in her last 6 fights, but she's also missed weight for 3 of her last 5 fights. So even though she may be in better standing with the UFC, I think that both of these girls have to kind of feel this fight is do or die for them. And you look at Chelsea Chandler, she trains with a scrap pack, but on the feet, I mean, she's very upright. She has some decent punch power, but bad head movement. She's really stiff, and she's only going to really be looking for the straight left hand. I feel like Edwards can land kicks. She can land strikes down the middle, and Chandler's strong. She can push you against the cage, and I feel like that's where she could potentially get the upset if she wins here, is through controlling Edwards against the cage, maybe getting her tired, getting her lazy, and then putting her on her back and winning minutes in that way. And if Chandler gets on top, she does have good ground and pound, but her takedown defense isn't really the greatest either. And I feel like Edwards is getting better. She has improved her grappling level, and I think she could keep it standing. I think she can even maybe get a takedown of her own. And I just feel she's the better fighter. But where the odds are, I mean, I don't see how you could justify a bet on Edwards or anything. I feel like this is just a pass fight to kick off the card. But I'll go with Jocelyn Edwards via decision. And for this next fight, we got 2 guys that look solid. It looks like they have a good skill set, but still kind of trying to suss them out and see exactly how good they are. Timmy Kwamba, 0-2 in the UFC so far, so he's a little bit in the danger zone, but trains at Extreme Couture, and you look at the way he fights, he has some good qualities. He has good timing on the feet, good lateral movement, he has fast 1-2s, and you could definitely see he doesn't have the best power, but his hands are fast. Even though he doesn't throw a ton of long combinations, he can sting you with the straight shots. He is a little small. It seems like he doesn't like getting in exchanges, so he tends to move quite a bit, and he's a little low volume. His last fight, he was mixing in kicks a little bit more, and he does have a nice head kick knockout on the regional scene. You'll throw some nice body kicks, kind of try to get you thinking low and then set you up with the head kick. But if you keep him on the back foot, he's really kind of only going to look to land counter 1-2s, and sometimes he'll try to shoot the double leg on you, but I feel like putting pressure on him is the way to go. And he's never been finished with strikes before, but I don't think he's necessarily like super tough. Like, if you start to get to him, he'll go into a defensive shell and kind of just acquiesce the loss and go to decision. But he has a good double, like I said. If you overextend or you kind of get out of position, he can level change on you, get to the ground. And I think his game plan is going to be pretty obvious here. I think he's going to try to stick and move with the straights. I think he's going to try to avoid staying in front of Romero and then mix in some takedowns. It looks like he lacks a little bit of physicality for this weight division. Even when he can get takedowns, he hasn't really been able to hold guys down. But I will say he showed some good heart versus Lucas Almeida. He got beat up for the first 2 rounds, but got a late takedown in the third. He got some solid ground and pound off to end the fight. And you could tell he has good cardio because he'll get rocked and he recovers quickly. But I'm not necessarily quite sold on him overall, to be honest with you. And when you look at Roberto Romero, Timo Yama product, he came in on short notice versus David Onama and gave him a scare. He dropped him in the first round, but ended up losing that fight. And now back for the second fight in the UFC for him and looking to beat an opponent that's a little bit more favorable, closer to his experience level in his second UFC fight. And you look at Romero, it seems like he's getting better really quickly, because when I first started watching a few of his fights a couple years ago, he was more of a volume guy, and he was using his jab to go to the body. He was throwing a lot of kicks. But his last fight, his hands looked a lot better, and he even dropped Onama with some hooks in the first round. He was throwing some really nice combinations. He was mixing his kicks in well. His calf kicks were looking really good, and I think they could be effective here versus Kwamba. And Romero's pretty fast, and when he's moving forward, he's good at slipping off the center line, counter strikes, clinching you up. Kind of a marauder, come forward style fighter. He isn't great fighting going backwards, though, and I do think he kind of slows down a little bit. But now that he's had some time to prepare, he's a UFC fighter, I think that he's going to be in better shape in this one, more than likely. And I think his stand-up looked way better his last fight, so you can only expect him to be leveled up once again for this Saturday. And he isn't a wrestler, but he will cage push you. And when he can get fighters to the ground, his grappling is on point and aggressive. I have seen him get tired in previous fights, and when that happens, he kind of can become hittable coming forward. And even when he's tired, he will continue to pressure, but he will start to absorb damage. But I think that if he can get a knockdown or get on top on here, he does have a chance to submit Kwamba. Both these fighters are young. They could show strides. I think Kwamba has a chance to maybe catch Romero with 1-2s at the start of the rounds, maybe hurt him. And if he can sneak the first round, there's a chance he could beat Romero as he slows down in the third or something, or maybe hurt him and coast to a victory after that. But I see Romero kind of going to work with the leg kicks, and I think that he's going to work all parts of the body. I think he's going to come forward. He's the bigger, more physical fighter. Conditioning-wise, I think that Romero is going to have an edge because he was getting ready to fight April 12th. His opponent withdrew, so he's had a couple months to get ready for a fight, whereas Kwamba didn't have anything scheduled, I don't believe. So he's coming in here on about 2 weeks' notice. I think Romero wins the decision here. He could get a finish in round 1, and I could see him getting a submission, but I'm going to say if he can't get Kwamba out of there early, it's probably going to go all 15 minutes. But regardless, I think Roberto Romero is going to come out victorious. In this next one, we got the second and last female fight on this card with Jacqueline Amorim taking on Polyana Viana. Brazilian versus Brazilian showdown, battle of two jiu-jitsu fighters. Polyana Viana, she's really experienced at this stage. She's been with the UFC since 2018. This is her 11th fight in the UFC. Obviously, she's been entertaining, but up and down. I mean, 4-6 in the UFC. Her 4 wins are all first-round finishes, but 2 more losses than wins. And she has 13 wins and 13 finishes. So when she goes out there, she gets the win. She's blowing through the competition. 12 of her wins are first-round stoppages. And when she loses, it's usually via decision, but she's in a little bit of a rough patch right now. She's gotten finished in her last 2 losses, and she's had some injuries. She hasn't fought for over a year, and her last win was almost 3 years ago, so she definitely has to get the victory this time. She has moved to the United States. She relocated to Vegas. She's training in the PI. She has probably a little more focus, and we'll see if that can give her what she needs to spring the upset, but she's going to be taking on the multiple-time Jiu-Jitsu World Champion Jacqueline Amorim, and Amorim is on fire right now. She had a rough start. She lost her UFC debut, but she won 3 fights in a row since then. All of them are finishes, and went 2-0 last year with 2 first-round armbar wins. The last one was a little bit controversial, but if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying, and it worked out for Amorim in the end, and she has less total fights than Viana has UFC fights, so she really doesn't have a lot of experience, and she hasn't fought great competition, but she's shown elite skill level. She has made it to the top in another sport, and this fight could be her coming out party against a fan favorite veteran fighter. And Amorim, I mean, doesn't really have much striking to speak of. She has a pretty wide stance, so she moves in and out well. She'll explode into the level changes good, but doesn't have a ton of power because of that, and her hand speed is okay, but you kind of just wing big punches, and it's all it means to an end to get the takedown. When you pressure Amorim, she will tend to just shoot the double leg right away, and if you could stuff it, she'll pull guard. So she's definitely more comfortable being on the ground than even being on the feet at all, even if she has to be on her back. And super dangerous on the mat everywhere. She'll try to use her footwork to pull you into the double leg, and if she can actually get on top, she's super aggressive. She passes really well. She'll work from position to position until she's in mount or gets the back, and from there she'll work good ground and pound. She'll float from mount to the back mount and eventually find the rear naked choke, an arm lock, or some sort of submission. And she, like I said, is good off of her back as well. So she'll pull guard. Corey McKenna actually took Amorim down early, and when she took her down early, she actually submitted her off of her back. So that was a great performance there from Amorim. But you look at Amorim throughout her career, she hasn't had a fight where she's gotten a takedown after the first round, and that's a little bit nerve-wracking because obviously pulling guard and winning fights in that manner is not going to be something you could do that often, I don't believe, in MMA, but she's been able to get the job done in one fight that went past the first round where she reversed her opponent a few times, then she got the 3rd round finish, and we'll see if she can take Viana down and take her and get her out of there early. But Polyana Viana, on the feet, she's going to be superior. She's tall, long, and lanky. She'll throw heavy round kicks and front kicks to all parts of the body, fast straight punches. She likes to stand her ground, stay in the pocket, and look to pull counter you with fast straights. And she's knocked out an opponent previously, so for the female weight classes, she has some power. She'll slide back and land counter hooks or counter straights. And the thing is, though, she does tend to float her chin a little bit when she does that, and she will stand up really tall, so you could draw the offense out of her and then counter her or take her down. And this is a hard matchup for Viana. I mean, at the start of every round, I would just start hot, try to use your length, your boxing, walk down to Amorim and find a big shot, or get her to pull guard, or you can get on top and get into a dominant position, maybe find the finish. But you look at Polly when she gets taken down, she does have really good guard. She'll throw up a lot of submissions. Her guillotine is decent, but
if you could pass her guard, which we saw in her last couple fights, you could finish her. And I think that Amorim's pressure pass style, kind of aggressiveness on the feet, is not the best matchup for Viana on the mat. And ultimately, Viana, it's just, I think that she has a chance if she comes in here with a smart game plan and is able to pressure and keep the distance after the first round and kind of box her up, don't engage on the ground. But ultimately, Viana's never proven that she could win minutes in fights. She's kind of been finish or bust, and I just think that she's going to fall into the trap, probably grappling with the Amorim, and if she doesn't get taken down and submitted early, I just think at some point she's going to end up on her back where she gets submitted in this fight, even if it's in the later rounds. I got to go with the Amorim here, and I think she's going to get the job done inside the distance. And up next here, we got Cameron Simone making his comeback after taking some time off after some bad losses. He's a young guy, he got fast-tracked a little too quickly, but if he could show some improvements, I still think he has a long career ahead of him. And he's going to be taking on Malcolm Wellmacher, who's a tantalizing fighter. He's someone that just won on the Contender Series, has a good story. He has a full-time job. He's a real humble guy, and like how he carries himself on social media. I think he has the chance to get a lot of fans, especially with this fight style as well. But 30 years old and still a little raw. So this is a good fight for both guys. I think that Cameron Simone, if he can come in here and beat Wellmacher, it'll show that he's still a really good prospect and someone that the UFC could potentially get behind. And for Malcolm Wellmacher, if he can beat someone like Cameron Simone right away, I mean, we saw Peyton Talbot get Cameron Simone and then get ranked. So I feel like Wellmacher would get pushed far if he can get this victory. But style-wise, Simone, he likes to throw a lot of kicks on the outside. He moves around. He'll try to pull fighters into hooks, overhands, good punching power, and he hides his punches pretty well. He'll slide back, crack with the left hand. In the pocket, you see him rolling with shots, slightly moving out the way, and cracking hard counters, so he's good there. Switch hitter, so you have to be aware of him throwing from both stances also. He throws a lot of spinning attacks and nice combinations. He will go to the legs, the body, the head, closes the gap quickly. But he does drop his hands, so if you can get the beat on him, you could time counters. And on the inside, he does a good job of shelling and countering, but knees, uppercuts can come through his guard. He has some power, but to me, it's more his volume, cardio, and tenacity that separate him. And if you slow down Simone, we'll put it on you. But this fight, like the fight with Peyton Talbot, he's fighting a really long opponent, and he struggled with the length of Talbot. He was getting countered coming in, and eventually got knocked out. So he's going to have to figure out how to close that void in this fight here. But Simone, he will mix it up a little bit and try to get some takedowns, but he's not a super relentless wrestler or a great wrestler. Serviceable wrestling defense, but I don't think that's going to be something that he really has to go for here. I think that, honestly, being 24 years old, hopefully he has some new tricks coming in here, and bringing a wrestling element could surprise Wellmacher, could be smart, cage wrestling him, trying to get his back against the cage and maybe just grinding him out a little bit. If Simone gets on top, he does have nice ground and pound too, but Malcolm Wellmacher, super long and lanky. He has natural ability to fight. You could tell that he's very calm, cool, composed in there. Switch stances. He'll try to catch fighters with straight, short hooks, good overhands. He can get a little wild, but you could tell he's getting better, more composed fight to fight. He has elite power. In this fight, I think knees, uppercuts, we need to see more of those from him, but really I've never seen him use those weapons. And Wellmacher, I think, needs to pressure, try to cut the cage off, back Simone up, and he can't give Simone room to explode or kick. Wellmacher doesn't tend to check low kicks, so he has to address that early and figure out how to mitigate that damage. But Wellmacher, I think he needs to pressure, stay in his range, try to get Simone to come to him, and then land the counters over the top like he did against Adam Bramhart on Contender Series. And if he lands clean, he has the power to get the knockout. But Wellmacher, you could tell he's getting better in the grappling, but it's still a little bit raw there for him. And we'll see if it holds up against Simone. But Wallmacher does have good cardio. He has good elbows off the breaks and the clinch, and he'll stay calm in bad positions. If you take him down, he could usually work his way back up eventually and still has the gas tank to start pressuring you again. And I do think people are a little low on Simone right now. He's better than what people are saying, but Wallmacher, he's getting better every fight. He is good at controlling range and countering guys coming in. And I think he has to be really sharp for Simone. Simone, to me, is the better overall fighter, but it's just coming down to if Wallmacher with these elite tools can win with a lesser skill set. If Wallmacher can pull Simone into a big shot, he can knock him out like we saw Talbot do with the counter left hook. And I really think this fight could go either way because I think Simone will be the more experienced fighter that can win minutes with a good game plan, but the entire fight he's going to be vulnerable to a counter as he tries to cross the void. And I want to say Simone gets the job done, but kind of a gut prediction for me. Something tells me Wallmacher is special. He's raw, and maybe he'll drop this fight, and his potential will never shine through. But I think he can catch Simone and knock him out, or at least rock him a few times and steal the decision. I do agree with this being pick'em because I think both guys have paths to victory. But for me personally, I'm going to predict Wallmacher wins via second round knockout.
And this next fight, this is one of my more confident predictions with Betmma and Blackshear. It seems like the UFC is trying to get him another victory and then keep him busy and put him in a bigger fight later in the year. Blackshear been one of the busiest fighters that the UFC's had since he's gotten signed, and he is on a really nice run recently with back-to-back finishes over Cody Gibson, and he also beat Cody Stamann. 2 nice wins right there. And Healy Alatang's on a nice win streak himself, but fighting a little bit lesser competition. He's coming off a victory over Cleaton Rodriguez, and he's won 3 of his last 4 fights. Style-wise, when you look at both these guys, Blackshear, he's definitely more of a grappler, but his striking isn't bad, and I feel like he's going to be able to move around on here in this fight, kind of frustrate Alatang by being faster and landing strikes at a distance, and then hitting some takedowns and just being a far superior grappler. Healy Alatang, he is a explosive guy. He's athletic, low volume. He has power in his hands, and if you stand in front of him, he can definitely clip you with the 3-2s or a big counter and rock you. But if you move around and kind of stay at kicking range, land on him, stick and move on him, you could touch him and not get hit too often because he's not going to throw too much. And Alatang has gotten better at mixing in takedowns and training with Fight Ready. He has a lot of good partners for that, but in this fight, that's not going to be available for him. Blackshear is going to be the better grappler, and I think Blackshear can hit takedowns, put Alatang on his back where he's not really the best grappler, and do work to him there. So this is Blackshear's fight to take. I think he's more athletic. He's younger. He's been more active. He's on a better streak, better skill set everywhere. And I think Alatang just kind of has the chance to knock Blackshear out if Blackshear makes a mistake. But outside of that, Betmma Blackshear should win this fight, and I think he's going to get it. And up next year, we got a fight that was supposed to go down a few weeks ago. It was a short notice matchup where Chris Gutierrez, he was going to fight Gian Matsumoto. Castaneda had another opponent, and both their opponents had to pull out, so they got booked against each other, and then for whatever reason that fight didn't end up happening on the card, and they pushed it down the road to now. So these 2 veterans are going to get down finally, and should be a good fight. I feel like this little bit of reset and time to get ready definitely favors Castaneda a little bit. With Chris Gutierrez, I think you kind of know, if you're Chris Gutierrez, what fighters are going to try to do to beat you at this point, because you're a specialist. You have an elite skill set on the outside, striking, pot shotting, using your kicks. So fighters are either going to look to pressure you and take away that kicking range and try to stay in your face and make it more of a dogfight, or take you down. And that's probably what Chris Gutierrez's training camps are every time. Him trying to figure out how to negate pressure and land his strikes as you come in, stay at kicking range, and keep the fight standing or get back up to his feet when he's taken down. And for Chris Gutierrez,
in this fight, I think that he can follow the blueprint that we saw from Daniel Marcos, where Daniel Marcos did a great job of battering John Castaneda's legs, and I think that Chris Gutierrez can do a very similar thing. With Castaneda, he does have good pressure, he has decent power as well, so he has some attributes that could potentially pose problems for Chris Gutierrez, and if Castaneda gets on top, his grappling acumen is decent, but he's one of these guys where he likes to bounce in and out of range. He is good at closing the distance quick. He'll land nice switch stance attacks. But I think that he's going to have trouble figuring out how to close the distance on a guy like Chris Gutierrez. I think that Chris Gutierrez is going to be a little bit sharper with the hands, be able to counter Castaneda as he comes in. And then at range, I think he's going to be battering Castaneda's legs. I think he's going to be working the body kicks that could eventually lead to a head kick and just being superior. And with Castaneda, he does have good kicks of his own, but going kick for kick with a guy like Chris Gutierrez, I don't think is a smart strategy. And even though you look at Chris Gutierrez, he's a little bit older, he's not necessarily on the greatest run in his career right now, even though he's coming off a victory over Quang Lee, and he hasn't fought in a while, but John Castaneda isn't no spring chicken either. He's 33, only 1 year younger than Chris Gutierrez. And I just think that Gutierrez is going to be a little bit too sharp on the feet, too polished for Castaneda. He has the experience. I think that he's going to be able to navigate it pretty well. And I do see him being able to keep this fight standing for the most part. And if he does get taken down, I think he can get back up like we saw him do versus Quang Lee. So ultimately, I just think Chris Gutierrez is a little bit too good for John Castaneda in this spot and is going to get the victory. And up next here, we got a fight that got put together on pretty short notice with Gage Young taking on Evan Elder. Evan Elder, he's been struggling to get a fight this year. He had a fight that was supposed to go down March 15th that never ended up happening, and then had a different opponent for this day in Ahmad Hassanzada, but now he's going to be taking on Gage Young, who's stepping in here on short notice. And Gage Young, he was already getting ready to fight just 1 week later on May 2nd. So he's probably going to be in shape and ready to go. And you look at both these guys, they're 9-2. And Young, he hasn't fought in the UFC, but he fought in Contender Series last September and went up against a really good fighter in Killian Salkeed, came up short. And came back out a knockout win in December, so he is entering this fight off of a victory. But Evan Elder, he already has had 4 UFC fights. He's 2-2, lost his first 2 UFC fights, but now he's on a 2-fight winning streak. And you look at Evan Elder, he's a good striker. He has nice footwork. He cuts angles well. He has fast hands, kicks, good timing. He'll use nice stance switch attacks. Nice 1-2s. His overhand is fast. It comes out of nowhere. Throws decent check hooks. He'll throw some nice body kicks, front kicks. Good job keeping his hands high in boxing range. Pretty solid defense. At distance, he does kind of carry his hands low, but he does that so you can't really see out when his punches are going to come. And with Elder, you have to be careful pressuring and not trying to hit him because he has his hands down, like I said, but he's good at shooting overhands over the top. He'll slide out of the way, come with counter hooks. He'll mix kicks. And if you start to miss big and get tired, then he's just going to pick you apart, rack up points. So you need to use measured pressure on Elder, back him up, get him to raise his guard, then maybe shoot it on the legs, make him wrestle. Use that to find openings on the feet, go to the body. Just try to be a little bit smarter in how you're setting up your offense. But Evan Elder's wrestling defense is not really shown to be too good in UFC. He only fought one true wrestler in Preston Parsons, and it was a short notice fight. It wasn't 170 pounds, but he got dominated. He showed toughness. He was able to create some scrambles. He got back up, but he got taken on several times. He got taken on pretty easily. And you could tell that Elder is athletic. He's strong, especially at 155. And working with Killcliff FC, he has heart. He's going to continue to improve his wrestling, and he has the training partners to push him in that area. He hasn't really fought someone since that Parsons fight that has really mixed in takedowns that heavily in their game plan. So I think that with Gage Young, he's going to have to show that he has improved wrestling defense, or at least he can get back up to his feet And he needs to come into this fight in great shape so he can move laterally, stay evasive, and land counters all night. And for Gage Young, he's a fast and powerful fighter. On the feet, he moves forward and backwards well. He cuts the cage off pretty good. He'll stay patient. He could switch stances. He isn't going to be as high volume as Elder, but when he connects, he has power and he can knock you out. He throws heat and he could generate knockout power from his left and right hand, but his right hand is money shot. He also has some really brutal kicks. I think he's going to be looking for the straight punches once he backs Elder towards the fence in this fight. Try to gauge which side that Elder is going to circle off and land leg kicks, body kicks on that side, maybe eventually go high with the head kick. And Young needs to keep his hands a little bit higher. He can't rely on pulling as much because Elder is fast and he throws punches that are hard to see. So if Young gets clipped coming in and doesn't see the shot, he could get hurt. But if he can get on the inside, find his 1-2s, land his short hooks, I could see him rocking or overwhelming Elder also. And Gage Young has good wrestling. Back fighters up shooting on the legs or come up into a body lock, push him to the cage and get a takedown. And he's good at, if he doesn't get the takedown, also exiting with an elbow or with a strike off the break. And his wrestling defense is good. You could see when he fought Killian Salkeed, he was able to, early on when he was fresh, win the wrestling exchanges and show to be the superior wrestler. And the issue in that fight was the size, I think. Salkeed was a really big guy, and I just think that it was hard for Gage Young to deal with that. But this fight, he's not going to have as much of an issue in that type of scenario in terms of size. But I think Gage Young is going to take this one. It's a great high-level matchup. I think he needs to be at his best to get it done. Elder's going to be game, especially early. He's going to be moving, trying to control the center, not get backed up. I think he's going to probably be able to defend takedowns early. But Young needs to be patient, not let the moment get to him. He needs to play his game. Smart pressure, stance switch, cut off the cage, try to land your power. And if you could back Elder up and maybe even force a bad shot out of him, that he could take advantage of that and then look to mix in takedowns as well. I think the leg kicks and wrestling are going to be what gets Gage this win. And on top, Young should be able to grind down Elder eventually. If Elder maybe defends the takedowns or gets back up early, if he keeps taking him down, then I think he can eventually start to have that pay dividends. And I think he's going to be extra motivated fighting in his hometown too. So Gage Young via decision is my prediction in this fight. And up next year, closing out the prelims, I mean, fuck Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. Fuck Topuria versus Islam. I don't know why everyone's talking about those fights. Fuck John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. We got the fight of the century right here. Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick. Two of the most tough and durable fighters in the UFC. I don't know, man. I thought Matt Schnell retired his last fight. I know Jimmy Flick is retired and came back a couple times. Both these guys are really slick with their grappling. I mean, Matt Schnell, maybe you don't think about him as much in terms of his submission game, but if you look at a lot of his UFC wins, there's submissions from his back. He's good at catching guillotines. He'll throw up triangles, arm bars from his guard. He's really slick there. And obviously with Jimmy Flick, he's one of these guys that is pretty much submission or bust, and he'll get it to the ground by any means necessary. If he has to pull guard and if he has to be really sloppy with his takedowns, he's got to do what he's got to do. But, I mean, on the feet, Matt Schnell is a lot better, you'd envision. He throws nice straight punches. He's dangerous in the pocket. Good leg kicks. He'll throw front kicks at the middle. I feel like he's going to be way faster than Jimmy Flick. But man, the guy can get knocked out by a gust of wind. So Jimmy Flick, I mean, we've never seen the guy really bust a grape in a fight on the feet. I don't think he's really ever shown big power, but hey, crazier things have happened, and if Flick gets an early takedown, maybe he could submit Matt Schnell, but I don't know, man. I feel like hard to be confident on either side in this one. I think Matt Schnell is a little bit better. He's been fighting better competition by far, and I think he is more skilled, more athletic. So I'm going to pick Matt Schnell, but really no interest in this fight from a betting perspective.
And kicking the main card off, we got Aliskerov versus Andre Muniz. I mean, not too much interest in this fight, man. I feel like Ikram should easily win this fight. He's a huge favorite, so just don't see a lot of value in it. Ikram, he's coming off that knockout loss to Robert Whittaker. Obviously, Andre Muniz had that really good rise in the UFC when he first got here, but has not really been able to maintain that level as he's continuously fought high and good opponents. And I just feel like the Paul Craig fight for Andre Muniz, I cannot get over that fight from him, man. Just getting taken down by Paul Craig. It being so competitive on the feet. I mean, Muniz was getting the better of the stand-up, but I just feel like in this one on the feet, Ikram is going to be far superior. I mean, maybe Andre Muniz could connect on him. I think both these guys are a little bit chinny, so it makes Andre Muniz live in that sense. But even if Ikram's having trouble on the feet, I think he can get the takedowns here, and I think he can shut down the wrestling game and the back take game of Andre Muniz. And Andre Muniz has some ability off of his back, but unless Ikram just really gets caught sleeping, he's not going to get submitted from bottom or really get swept, I don't think. And I think he can do work on top, probably eventually get into a dominant position and finish. I think that he's going to come in here with some intent to look good and get an impressive performance, get back in the good graces of the UFC and the fans. So I got Ikram Aliskerov winning this one, looking pretty dominant and probably finding a finish. And this next fight, we got two veterans. Randy Brown is going to be stepping in the cage for the 20th time, and he's taking on the 40-year-old Nicholas Dalby. Randy Brown, he signed to the UFC when he was just 6-0, and he's gone 13-6 in 19 UFC fights so far, so done really well and kind of grown up in the UFC. And since 2020, he's gone 7-3. His last fight versus Brian Battle was probably the most bitter loss to swallow for Brown. It was an extremely close split decision. I think Brown believes he won the fight, and on top of that, Brian Battle missed weight by 4 pounds and clearly used that weight advantage to push Brown against the fence. So that loss was pivotal for Brown because if he would have won, it would have been 4 in a row for him. But now he's going to have to reset. He's facing Nicholas Dalby, who's in a similar position. Dalby, he is 6-2-1 since re-signing with the UFC in 2019. And he would be on a 5-fight winning streak himself had he gotten his hand raised his last fight where he lost split decision and he knocked Fakhretdinov in a fight almost everyone besides the judges felt Dalby did enough to win. But Dalby's going to have to put that in the rearview mirror, and we'll see who gets back in the winner's circle in Kansas City. But, man, this fight I'm going back and forth on it. I'm kind of struggling to get a good read on it because I feel like Randy Brown is far superior as a fighter overall skill-wise. It's just Nicholas Dalby has that gas tank. He has that heart. He has that grit, and he's going to keep pushing. He's going to really be high volume and try to make it a dogfight. And Randy can sometimes let fights be too close or slip through his fingers. And Nicholas Dalby's the type of fighter that could take advantage of that type of thing. So to me, it makes Nicholas Dalby a live underdog in this spot, but at range, Randy Brown is going to have a big advantage. Technically, he's going to be the speedier fighter, the longer fighter. He has more weapons. He has better weapons. And I just think he can control the clinch. I think that he can reverse Dalby if he clinches him up against the fence, put his back on the cage, maybe even get Dalby on his back, take him down. And I think Dalby's going to struggle to take down Randy Brown in this fight. I imagine that Randy Brown is going to be putting emphasis on his cage wrestling after the last fight versus Brian Battle. So going out here and getting held against the fence for the majority of the fight again versus Nicholas Dalby would definitely be a bad look for him. And I think Randy Brown's one of those fighters that goes in the lab and gets better and corrects the mistakes that he made in previous fights, and he's always been able to do that. Dalby, he's going to make it gritty, and he's going to make it probably competitive, but I just feel like Randy Brown is going to have the bigger moments when they're at distance, and I think he can control the clinch and get the better of the exchanges, maybe
mitigate a lot of the control time for Dalby and maybe match him with some of his own control time and keep the fight standing. So Randy Brown is my prediction.
And in this next fight, man, we got a great one. We got Michel Pereira coming back, taking on Abus Magomedov. Michel, he had an 8-fight win streak and was looking dominant at middleweight before his last fight and ran into Fluffy, who's a hard night for almost anyone in that division. And Fluffy did what he did, man. He went out there, he took down Michel Pereira at will, he beat him up, he got him tired, and then finished him. And that has a ton of people very low on Michel Pereira coming into this fight, questioning his cardio at 185 pounds and picking Abus Magomedov, who he also, after the Sean Strickland fight, had some of those same questions, but has been able to win some decisions recently, get a finish in the third round, and quell a little bit of that talk that he can't fight after round one in a fight. But I still think there's question marks with Abus Magomedov. You look at his fight with Bruno Ferreira, for instance, and on the feet, he was getting hit way too much. I feel like Michel Pereira, the guy's still a beast, man. And Abus Magomedov is good boxing. He's good at kind of staying at distance and landing nice counters. But I think that Abus is going to struggle with the kicking game of Michel. And he has a good kicking game in his own right. Both these guys have the ability to finish each other with hands or feet. But I just think that Michel is the faster, more dynamic, more powerful striker that is more durable. And I think Abus isn't going to take the shots and power from Michel. I think that Michel is going to be hitting too hard for Abus, and I think Abus isn't going to be able to handle that. And Abus, he's been able to get these takedowns, but I'm still not sold on his wrestling, man. I feel like Michel Pereira is going to be a lot harder to take down than these guys that he's been putting on their back when they've been kind of giving him takedowns by overextending or spinning and putting themselves in bad position. I think Michel is going to be more smart with this takedown defense in this one. I think he's going to be wanting to prove that he can go long if he has to, and he always has the ability to put the lights out early with either a choke or a kick or punch. So the guy's just extremely dangerous in all facets of the game. And Michel Pereira, before the Anthony Hernandez fight, was one of my dark horses in the division, and I'm still not ready to fully jump off the train, man. I still really like Michel Pereira. I think that he's a super beast, and Abus Magomedov is good, but I think that he's more of an all-rounder. He's good everywhere, not great anywhere. He's a decent athlete, but he's not a incredible athlete, and I just don't think that he's going to be able to come in here and wrestle Michel Pereira for 3 rounds or expose his gas tank. I mean, I don't think Abus is necessarily the guy to do that. So I got Michel Pereira here, and I think he's going to win by knockout. Man, I can't wait for this one. Giga Chikadze taking on David Onama. 2 really fun fighters to watch. We got Giga Chikadze, who is someone that is ranked. He's number 12 in the featherweight division, but hasn't won a fight in quite a while. And he's older. He's had a lot of injuries recently. He hasn't been able to win fights. He's only had 1 win since September of 2021, which was against Alex Caceres, I think almost 2 years ago at this point. And David Onama, 3 wins in a row. He's been slowly building. He's 5-2 in the UFC, but coming off a win over a guy that was making his debut in the UFC, and he got dropped and lost the first round. So he isn't fighting the Arnold Allens of the world like Giga Chikadze, a top 5 ranked fighter. This is a big step down for Giga. Age 36, kind of the crossroads fight for him to see if he is still upper echelon or if it's time for him to maybe hang up the gloves. But David Onama is a beast. He's extremely fast. He's powerful. He's athletic. He's a sick jab, really fast 1-2s, good switch stance ability. And on the inside, he has really nasty short hooks, uppercuts, elbows. He'll rip the body. He'll open up headshots and go to the head after the body inside. And he's great in the pocket. He's got one of the sharpest jabs in the division. Very polished on the feet. I think he's better on the counter or in the pocket than he is when fighters force him to go first and close the distance. And I expect Onama to try to pressure, use the jab, throw minimal offense until he sees Chikadze maybe slowing down a little bit and then pick it up. He can't let himself get hit with enough low kicks, body kicks, big headshots before he gets going, though, and kind of lose the fight in that manner. And he has good takedown defense, Onama. And if you do take him down, he's not easy to hold down. He's really good at giving up his back and then turning into top position. And he has good submission defense. And when he gets on top, he has really nice ground and pounds. He only has 3 takedowns in his UFC career, though. So if he can take down Giga, I think that would be a very smart strategy. But it's probably going to be a stand-up fight. And for Giga Chikadze, he's experienced. He's a polished kickboxer. Incredibly fast twitch guy. He likes to skirt around on the outside, pull fighters into his power. If you stay at distance, he has brutal kicks, including the signature Giga kick to the body that he's finished many fighters with. Really fast straight punches. He's good at landing off the back foot or the front foot, and you'll cut angles and get fighters to chase him and then throw heat. And pressuring Chikadze, forcing him to defend takedowns has been the path to beat him. But Giga does himself get backed up because he believes in his speed counters. But I think in this matchup, it's going to be good for him because I think he's going to be able to land off the back foot if he forces Onama to come to him. And Giga does have a really taxing style, so as fights go on, he will lower his volume and not be quite as sharp. So he needs to do his work early or get a knockout if he wants to win fights. And he is very durable. He's never been stopped, and we've seen him take a ton of damage in fights. His wrestling defense has gotten better, but it's not good. I mean, we even saw guys like Calvin Kattar take him down and control him. I just don't think that's going to be a big factor here in this fight. But I got Giga here, man. I think it's a good matchup for him. Onama is hittable when he comes forward, and Giga should be able to land counters at will, I feel. I see him being more active and better with his kicks at distance, and then landing sharp and powerful punches on Onama when he tries to get aggressive and get inside. And this being in the big cage should help out Giga too. I don't think Giga has to really fear being taken down too much. Durability-wise, I edge it to Giga also. I just think it's going to come down to if Onama can land on an aging Giga and hurt him or get him tired and take over. But Onama isn't a guy who really goes forward, and I think if he tries to go tit for tat with Giga, it's going to be an issue at range. I think the kicks are going to outweigh the kicks of Giga. And if he tries to go forward, I think Giga's just going to piece him up with the hands. And it's the cardio and overall hunger for Giga that I'm more worried about. But I just think he can win a clean decision here or even get a finish. So Giga Chikadze is the prediction, in my opinion, for this fight. And co-main event, I'm going to need your guys' help a little bit on this one, man. We got an old school versus new school clash. Anthony Smith making the final walk to the cage, stepping into the battle, I think for over the 60th time. I listened to one of his interviews recently where he's saying that he believes it's like his 64th fight. But he's been a pro since 2008. He had his first UFC fight all the way back in 2013. But at this stage, he's definitely settled into the gatekeeper role. He's been the fighter that's given up-and-comers that push they need to get to a title fight, even veterans like Glover. But turned back a couple guys recently, but he's on a 2-fight losing skid and lost 5 of 7. It's the right time for him to call it quits. And his last fight, he had someone close to him die. That was a major part of his fight career and seemed like it affected him in the fight. So hopefully he can get past that for this one and close out his career how he wants it. But he's going to be taking on the 26-year-old Ming Yang Zhang, 18-6 fighter out of China that's rolling right now. He's won 11 fights in a row, all in round 1, 2 knockouts in the UFC, 2 bonuses, and he also got a sick knockout on the road to UFC tournament. So it's been 6 years since he's lost, and the majority of his losses took place when he was a teenager. He's still very much unproven. He's not really fought anyone that great, although his wins over Brenton Herberio and Ozzy Diaz have aged well. But more importantly for me, he hasn't been pushed. The last time Zhang had to go out of round 1 was in 2018, and he lost that fight. and he's actually 0-3 in fights that have gone past 5 minutes. Anthony Smith, he's not a pushover, he's smart. He knows if he could survive early based off Zane's record, it's a good chance he can take over. And if Zane can win this over 3 rounds or even get a later round finish, I think that's going to prove a lot. And it's probably what the UFC brass are looking to see if Zhang is capable of doing against a guy like Anthony Smith, who hasn't been finished in the first round in years, and he's been fighting the cream of the crop as far as competition level goes. So when you look at Mingyang Zhang, I mean, the guy has crazy power. He's just been folding people with one punch. If you get an exchange with him, he'll find your chin and just put you out. Really fast hands, looks athletic and aggressive, really good in exchanges. But it seems like you can kind of stick and move on him. You can catch him as he comes in, and don't really know about his wrestling or grappling, and obviously don't know about his cardio. So Anthony Smith, I mean, the guy has not been looking the best recently, but we know he's kind of a serviceable fighter in all areas that will kind of use his toughness to take a beating up front and come back later. Use that experience. He has good cardio. He can finish you with submissions and he can knock you out. So, fairly dangerous guy. I mean, I do think that Anthony Smith is live here. I really do. But picking him at this stage in 2025, I mean, I just don't want to do it, man. Mingyang Zhang, I'll say round 1 knockout here. I think he'll, knock out the shadow of Anthony Smith in the first round and really put a stamp on the fact that this should be Anthony's last fight. But, man, if Anthony Smith comes out here and gets a submission or a decision win on a guy that gasses out, that just isn't ready for this moment, I would not be shocked whatsoever. So, dog or pass in my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Do you guys think that Mingyang Zhang is going to come out here, cover the price tag, and become a future star in the UFC? Or do you kind of agree that there's some question marks and there's an avenue or path for Anthony Smith maybe to get his hand raised here? But my prediction will be Mingyang Zhang via first round knockout. And in the main event, we finally got 2 prime guy. I guess Ian Garry, man, you got to give him some credit. Went against Shavkat. I know he's going against Carlos Prates, but this is a great main event. It's 2 guys, and man, you hear all these younger fighters, they'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime, but they always want to fight these old vets, man. They want to go in there. They want to fight the fighters that already have a name, that are aging, that they've seen fight a million times, where they're like, okay, if I lose, I lost to this guy that's established, and they don't want to lose to each other, but hey, man, they're putting up or shutting up Carlos Prates, Ian Garry. I think that obviously this is a short notice matchup, and the winner is going to get a big reward at the end of it, so it's easy for them both to say yes, or easier. But, man, extremely high-level fight. Ian Garry, he's obviously coming off that split decision loss to Shavkat, or not split decision, excuse me, but close loss to Shavkat. And he had that chance late in the 5th where he got the back to maybe do something, but it was just a little bit too little too late for Ian Garry. He was really mad that he wasn't in line for jumping in on short notice for the title fight, but I don't know, coming off a loss, I just don't think that he deserved it, but he's coming in here with a different edge. It seems like he's trying to reinvent himself and show that maybe he's going to have a little bit more of a violent chapter in the UFC after his first loss, but could just be all talk also. And Carlos Prates, I mean, you want to talk about a violent guy. This guy is maybe the heaviest hitter at welterweight. He's putting people out with one shot, face planting them, and just elite power. And style-wise, I mean, you watch Carlos Prates fight, and man, he'll get reads and kind of look a little clunky and awkward at times, like he letting you kick his leg. Seems like he's a little bit hittable on the inside, but he's able to roll with shots or slightly get out of the way, maybe absorb some damage, and he's collecting that data, and then you see him put that pressure on guys, and it's like
once he finds his beat, he's taking these people out. He's going knee to the body. He's landing the 1-2s. And I just feel like on the feet, he's going to have the edge here. Ian Garry is known for being an elite striker, high volume. He puts that jab on you. He straight punches you. He kicks you from the outside. But that's when he can fight off the back foot, moving at range, sticking and moving, and using his height and his God-given gifts. But in this one, he's going to have the height and reach disadvantage. And it seemed like, if you ask me, he's not really dealt the greatest with that in the stand-up in certain fights, like the MVP fight and even outside of the UFC. So you'd imagine that Ian Garry's going to come in here and try to grapple. His grappling is, I think, very underrated. Really good back takes, really tight grappling. He trains out there in Brazil all the time. So if he can get this fight to the ground or mix in the takedowns, then I think he can win here, especially if he gets an early takedown. He could get Prates tired. We haven't really seen how Prates' gas tank is going to look after round 2. And I mean, all that cigarette smoking is cool for the fans until he gasses out and loses. So we're going to have to see if he could contend in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds of a fight. What did Muhammad Ali say about George Foreman? He's not going to be ready to hear round 9, round 10. So we'll see if Carlos Prates is ready here round 4, round 5 in this fight if it gets there, because Ian Garry is going to be ready for that. But Carlos Prates' takedown defense looked impressive in his last fight. I know Neil Magny is nothing to write home about a win over him these days, but he had his leg like almost above his head and he was still able to stay balanced. And I think that his takedown defense, seeing Gene Silva against Bryce Mitchell, I mean, I think it's going to be on point. And I just feel like on the feet, he's going to be able to pressure Ian Garry and make him uncomfortable. And I just think he finds that kill shot on Ian Garry and knocks him out. And I see the hype train for Carlos Prates going to the moon, man. So, knockout for Carlos Prates in this one, round 2, round 3. I think he's going to get Ian Garry out of there. So there you have it, guys. It's a full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Kansas City. Hopefully you liked it. Hopefully you enjoyed something. And, man, like I said at the beginning of the video, hit the like button, put a comment down below, even if it's just thank you, a let's go, whatever. Push the algorithm. Let's get this video out to more people. And, I really appreciate everyone that listens every week. If you want to go to patreon.com/PredictionGuru, get access to my bets, get access to breakdowns for other promotions. We've been doing really well with the bets lately, and it just helps keep the channel going. Then go check that out. The link's going to be in the description. And as far as my most confident pick of the week this week, I'll say my most confident pick is Blackshear. And for a parlay of the week on this card, I'll say do a parlay of Ikram, Aliskerov, Blackshear, and Jacqueline Amorim. I think that parlay will hit. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back soon breaking in another fight card, and peace out. See you guys later.